Hello, welcome to Eden Hope Academy. I'm Kim and we are almost finished with our year. We're on week 23. So get out your books and give them a wiggle and let's get started on Bible. In all of your ways, this is Proverbs 3, 6 through 8. In all of your ways, acknowledge God and He will make your path straight. Be not wise in your own eyes, fear God and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your flesh and refreshment to your bones. So in everything you do, say thank you to God for. Always recognize that He is with you all of the time. Down here, draw a picture of God making your path straight. What does it mean to make your path straight? That means to give you a clear vision of what you're to do, to not be muddled in things. The clear vision of what God wants you to do, because He has made you unique and special. He has a specific purpose for your life. I can't wait to see what He does in your life. So draw a picture there, and then pause for a second and go on to the next one. All right, the next one is George Orwell wrote 1984 and 1949. Warning Big Brother watching out for our every move, using propaganda against each other. Orwell's famous depiction has recently started exploding. Truth is stranger than fiction. Look at the case of Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. So we learned about 1984 a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? We did. And now you look at this week, we're learning about Julian Assange and Edward Snowden, and we're learning about how the government is looking into so much of people's private lives. And it was what was written about all the way back after World War II in 1949. And it's just interesting to see that those types of things have come to fruition. A lot of those are written about in the Bible and Revelation as well. So it's important that you know the Bible so you know what's going to happen in the future. So write down here, your privacy is important. Our founding fathers never intended for the government to control the people. That's what it's really about. When the government is collecting all this information on the people, they're really planning on controlling them, or they're finding ways to control them. That was never what our founding fathers wanted. Our Constitution is very explicit, specific, that the people are to control the government. The people are in charge, not the government. Always remember that you are in charge of the government. The government is not in charge of you. The government is there to serve the people, not to control the people. Draw a picture of you protecting your privacy. Talk to your mom about ways that you can protect your privacy online and other places too. All right, we have David and Sarah Living Good, our missionaries with Young Life in Japan. And they actually have another little boy now. And they learned how to speak Japanese, and they tell the Japanese people about Jesus. They are really cool people. And our verse says, in all ways acknowledge God, and He will take away confusion and transform your problems and show you how He takes problems that you think you have, and He shows you so much about His glory through the problems. And so how can you acknowledge God? How can you say God is great in everything that you do? Can you think of ways that you can do that? Next we have be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your flesh. Do not assume that you know something. Ask God and pray for wisdom. So don't think, I know it all. Always ask God and pray for wisdom, and ask your parents for their advice and their wisdom. How can you check yourself so you don't get into the trap of being wise in your own eyes? It's kind of pridefulness, isn't it? How can you make sure that you're not prideful? Can you think of ways? I bet you can. All right, next we have NASA launched the spaceship, the New Horizons, in 2006 to study Pluto. It arrived in 2015. So how many years difference is that? Can you tell me? Quite the journey for a probe the size of a piano. It's studying geology, surface composition, topography, temperature, and its spare time it's staring at Pluto's giant moon called Charon. All right, so that is pretty cool that we are now exploring Pluto. And Pluto, when I was your age, was a planet. And then a couple of years ago, they said, no, it's too small to be a planet. And now I think it's back to being a planet. So it's interesting to see how science is not set. It's always learning, always exploring. So draw a picture of the new horizons landing on Pluto. Now, what do you think these are pictures of? Do you know? This is North Korea and South Korea. And we're doing a lot with Korea right now in our history, in our present. There's a lot of conflict with North Korea, which is right here. And North Korea is communist. There's one man, Kim Jong-un, who runs North Korea, and he runs it as a dictator, as a communist dictator. And he is in complete control of his people. They cannot think on their own. They cannot do things on their own. They have to do exactly what he says, or else really bad things happen to them. A lot of people try to escape Korea by this border right here, North Korea, but this border, which is China. And there are a lot of Chinese Christian people who help the North Koreans escape. And they tell them about Jesus, and then they help them go all the way to other countries so that they can come to America. But very, very few North Koreans can escape. There's a lot of starvation in North Korea too, because communism really does not work. And so you look down here, and you look up here, and do you see how bright and light? These are pictures from satellites at night. This is South Korea. South Korea is a democracy. Do you see all that light? South Korea has also got a lot of Christians, quite a few Christians who live down there. In democracy, people can invent things and come up with new ideas, and they'll get the reward for it. In communism, if you invent something, then the government gets it, or they don't even want it at all, because they want to stay with complete control. In democracy, if the Koreans want to build a car company called Hyundai, they can do that. How about Kia? Does anyone's mom drive a Kia? Kias come from down here too, because the people can use their skills that God has given them to do great things. But in North Korea, where there's communism, they cannot do that. So do you see the difference? This is a true picture at night of the two countries, and it shows you the light that emanates from South Korea versus North Korea. All right, so just beyond the orbit of Neptune, there's a shadow zone, the Kuiper Belt. It is home to the dwarf planet Pluto, and thousands just like it, the Kuiper Belt. We used to call Pluto a planet just like Earth, but our scientists scanned it and found ice rock that the Kuiper Belt holds. Well, like I said, we went back and forth, and I think we're now back to a planet. So is Pluto going to be found here? No. So why don't you draw a picture of Pluto like around here, like maybe way out here in space. Can you do that? All right, so we're going to learn about Barack Obama. We're going to learn about the Chilean miners. There's a really good video on the Chilean miners, and I definitely recommend that. And then we're going to learn about Edward Snowden this week. And all of these are so interesting. And what I want you to get from Edward Snowden is that our privacy is important. A lot of people will say, well, I don't have anything to hide. Have you ever heard that? Where people will say, well, it doesn't matter to me if there's privacy because I don't have anything to hide. Well, that's not a very educated response when you say that we need privacy. Do you know why? It's not a very educated response because right now in history, in our time, we're allowed to tell people about Jesus. We're allowed to express ourselves as Christians. We're allowed to talk about God. If we're Jewish or Muslim or Buddhist, we can tell people all about what we believe. If we don't believe in God at all, we can tell people. We can offend people because it's in our Constitution. But what if a government came into power in the United States where they said no to that? Then all of a sudden, if we were just free with all of our information and we didn't worry about it, then it would really matter quickly. So that's why it's important to be careful about your information, and it's also important to make sure our government stays free, where everyone can say what they want to say. Okay, so that's it for week 23, and I will see you next week. See you in a minute, or see you next week.